This is Boer, and I'm back again. This quick tip is on following directions, how to work on what we call instructional control with your child. This is part of the Families Living with Children with Autism set of recordings, and hopefully you watched my introduction video so that you've got the basic skills on shaping and reinforcement and behavior momentum, so that these things that I'm giving quick tips on, you can use those strategies when you're working on these things. Okay? So a lot of parents struggle with getting children to follow their instructions. So everybody kind of is on the spectrum as a parent as how well their child follows their instructions to do things. Some parents do have what we call pretty good instructional control. When they tell their child they need to do something, they do it, and the parent doesn't feel that they have a lot of difficulty. But there's a whole spectrum, and all of us, I'm sure, can use a few pointers. And so I'm going to be giving some pointers on how to do that and to make sure that you can kind of maintain that over time. That's one of the important things. So we're going to talk about what's called pairing, and also establishing from pairing your instructional control. So pairing is something, just, one of those technical terms that means that you have paired yourself as the giver of good things. You have paired yourself as somebody that the child wants to be with. The child sees you as someone that they want to be around, that they want to interact with, because that's what leads to then a child being motivated to follow your instructions. Okay? So it doesn't mean that we're begging them or asking them or bribing them to do what we say. It means that we've set up that trusting relationship with that child, that they know that being around you is good for them, and they want to be around you, even if sometimes you're implementing punishers or things that are consequences that they don't like. Most of the time they're around you, it's nice to be around you because they get things, they have fun, and they are happy with that type of relationship. Okay, so one of the things that you want to be sure of, and this goes for every person in the family, and it can be more difficult for people who don't see the child as often, to maintain that kind of paired relationship with the child, because it does take time to set up that relationship. So kind of judge each person, dad, mom, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, siblings, what you feel like this kind of status that your relationship is with that child with autism. One of the things I say is a very good judge is, does the child run to you or away from you when you come near them? Okay, that's a big indicator of how they feel about you. Now, running to you doesn't necessarily mean that you have good instructional control. It just means that you've paired yourself as somebody that the child wants to be around, because good things and fun things happen, or they get good things and fun things to happen when they're with you. So that's all that means. And then we can take that from there to going to establishing instructional control. So judge how your relationship with the child is. If you really struggle, the child doesn't really want to be around you, or it's not that they run away from you or run to you, it's just that they don't really act like they know you, they kind of ignore you, then you will want to engage in pairing activities. So that means that you engage in activities with the child that they want to do. So if they want to sit on the floor and play Legos, you do that. If they like trains, you play with trains with them. It doesn't mean that you engage in the self-stimulatory activities with them, because those aren't appropriate functioning behaviors, and those behaviors don't lead to them learning new skills. It doesn't lead to them developing social skills to interact with other people, or functional skills that help them in the environment. So we want to engage in appropriate activities that the child likes to engage in. So if they like playing video games, you might play video games with them. If they like, swinging on the swings, they like running around the room, they like jumping on the trampoline, those are things that you would do with them. And you would try to do several different things, not just one thing. You don't want to be associated with only one activity or only one thing that you give them. Okay, and so this means, if you've watched one of my previous trainings when we talked about contingent versus non-contingent, so this means in the beginning when you're pairing with them, you're doing a lot of non-contingent things. That means they don't have to do anything to get something from you or to do something with you. You're not making it contingent on their behavior. Now, if they were to start behaving inappropriately while you were playing with them, then you might just walk away. You wouldn't say anything, because this is the time where you're pairing, and you're pairing yourself with fun and good things. And if something else happens, then you might just leave, so that you just kind of end that activity, and then a different time you would engage with them again. So this is something where you sit down and you gradually interact. Now you have to be careful, because if they don't want you to touch their things in the beginning, you need to kind of be there for a while, engaging in parallel play. You might touch their things for a moment while you're playing, but don't start by placing a lot of demands on them, asking them to do a lot of things. Just play with them, okay? And if they don't like you touching their things, then in the beginning just play parallel and don't talk a lot, okay? But then gradually just touch their things by pointing and saying something. Look, that's pink. Oh, I like how you put that on top of that one. And they see that you can touch something and not necessarily take it away. See, this is the big thing that a lot of kids with autism struggle with, and typical kids, is that they think the presence of an adult means what fun things are happening are going to stop, or the things that I like are going to get taken away. So that's what you want to be sure, that you're not always paired with taking things away that they like or stopping the fun things that they're doing. So you touch them, and then gradually you start, maybe you might just pick it up for a moment and look at it and put it back down. Don't pick it up and bring it over here like it looks like you're going to take it. Just, while they're in front, just turn it over and put it back, so that they see how that can happen without you stopping things. And you just keep gradually pairing yourself with being there, and you're not going to stop the fun thing and not going to take it away. Okay? So then that leads, once you've established that you can kind of do those things and you can participate together, they're okay. Maybe you pick something up and you put it in front of you for a minute, do with it, and then you offer it back to them. If they don't take it, you keep playing with it, or on your own, you just put it back in front of them, so that they don't always have to ask for what they want too. You'll put it there or make it available to them too. So just increase that time, and then gradually, you kind of move from pairing into instructional control. So what I've got here are the two main things that we look at with instructional control and what instructional control means, okay? So first, it means that you've built rapport. You have, as a person, the person giving the instruction, are paired with delivery of reinforcing things or rewards, okay? That's the first part. That's the pairing part. That's where I said, like, if a child runs to you instead of away from you when you're near him, then you know you've paired yourself with good things, okay? Now, then what also is instructional control is that when you give an instruction, the child responds, and the child responds correctly. So correctly could mean, if you say, give me, they give it to you. If you say, what's that over there? They tell you what that is. If you say, I need you to come here, they come here. And it doesn't mean after the 5th time you've given the instruction. It means the first time you give the instruction. Okay? So that's part of what instructional control is. They respond correctly, and they respond after the first instruction. Okay? Those are all things, but first you have to go through the pairing thing, and then you can work into. So you're gradually increasing the demands, is what I said. Demands just means kind of the situation and what is required of the child. Okay, so a demand doesn't mean that you necessarily tell the child that they have to do something. So you picking up the item and looking at it and then putting it back down right away is a demand on the child. They are having to allow you to look at that item that they like. Okay, so that's a demand. So think of that as the things that you do to interact with them, the things that maybe you're requiring them to share. One of the things that you can do when you're establishing this is my turn, your turn. Okay, I'm gonna look at it. Your turn. And then you say, okay, my turn. And you look at it and you say, thank you, my turn. So you go right back and forth. And if the item that you choose or the activity that you choose to touch or engage in together, the child is just too strongly attached to, then don't do it with that item. That is what we call kind of a ineffective pairing process or ineffective reinforcer to establish your instructional control. So do something that the child definitely likes, but that they are just not so obsessed with that they don't want anybody to be associated with it, okay? So the first thing that you're doing when you're leading to this is what we call compliance, right? So you picking this up and looking at it and doing that is placing a demand on them, but you haven't asked them to do something. So the minute you start asking them to do something, or what we call, giving an instruction, because we aren't actually asking, then you are now making an instruction to them that you're going to require compliance for. So it's important that you build up to that compliance. So you want to look at the things that are, what's the most difficult for the child, and you kind of start in a roundabout way. So if come here is difficult, then you're going to want to do something that's like give me as a compliance thing, or put that here where maybe you don't touch it, and that helps with the compliance because you. So you're starting with that parallel play, then you're playing next to them, then you are trying to engage with the items that they might be playing with, or engage in the actual activity. So if it's like jumping on a trampoline, then they would let you jump on the trampoline with them. So whatever it is, there's some sort of sharing that's going on, that's showing them that you're going to engage with them, you're going to have fun with them, and you're not going to stop it, and you're not going to take it away. Okay? Then when you're going to do a brief action with it, or you do, like you pick it up and you put it here, or any of that sort of thing that I was talking about, you don't start making them follow instructions. You don't want to turn that reinforcing thing into a task now, okay? So you build up to, something where it's put here. I just didn't want you to miss that component that I kind of skipped there. So just be sure that you don't just already automatically turn that activity into a task in and of itself. You want to save that for later. So if you use blocks to, make towers, and you do it as a thing for them to copy something that you've done, which is a good, thing to work on, that they can copy a design that you've made. Don't turn a playing with blocks activity into that. Okay, that's something that's different. You're just working on pairing, that you're there, but you're trying to get them to be more and more able to allow you to interact with the things that they do. Okay? Finally, at the very end, you want to then stop the activity, or take that item for a little while and hold it. So you're going to kind of gradually increase the amount of time that the activity stops, or that you have that activity just for a few seconds, and then you give it back to them, or you let them restart. And so sometimes what we do is we play a game like freeze, and then they stop doing that activity if it's like jumping on the trampoline. Or it's like, okay, give it to me, my turn. Ooh, and you hold it and you say, oh, I like a red on the bottom, or look, I can bounce it. And you do things with it without the child being able to engage in it. And then you say, okay, here, what do you want to do with it? So you kind of gradually increase those amounts of time, okay? So the thing about establishing instructional control also means that you gradually increase the distance from them that you can give the instruction, okay? So when you are playing with that activity, you might actually back up, and you might actually pick up the thing and walk away now, and then walk back and give it to them, okay? Distance and time are both things that are involved in instructional control. Can you stand across the room and give the instruction? Not at the beginning, but later you can, because they know you're going to follow through. So that's where sometimes what happens is you end up giving the instruction 5 times. You haven't established your your instructional control enough to be at a distance, because when you give the instruction in the beginning, you need to make them follow through, and that can mean that you physically prompt. So as you're developing that pairing relationship, as you're slowly increasing demands on them in order to get that reinforcer back or restart that activity, then if they don't follow through, then you physically prompt them to do it and show them when you do it, then you get the item back. Now, of course, you don't continue to physically prompt them, because then they know they need to do it, and so then you just wait them out. But be very slow, okay? Don't take this too fast. Spend the time, but you always gradually increase your demands. That's very important, because just like I taught in the first introduction with reinforcement, you don't want them to get something for nothing all the time, because then they just get satiated, they get full, and they don't really care about getting it. They realize, I don't have to go through you to get it, so I can just wait. All right, so that again is not letting them have it unless they comply. They don't get that reinforcer any other time than when they're going to play with it with you. Those are just kind of other ideas. Okay, so there's 4 last things that I want you to kind of keep in mind when you're working on instructional control. And that is, you provide small amounts of reinforcement for little things all the time, okay? Because that keeps up that pairing. That means that you're continually praising them, they're continually getting good things from you, but they're not getting the big things for the most difficult or the hardest, or the things that they don't like to do the most, okay? Small reinforcers keep that success, builds that behavioral momentum, but also keeps that pairing relationship, that trust built, that you are the giver of good things, they need to go through you, do what you're asking in order to get what you want, okay? Maintain control of the reinforcer, okay? Don't give it back. Don't let them have it unless they've behaved appropriately or done the correct response, okay? If they refuse, then you just walk away. You don't stay there. You don't act like they have control over the situation and that you're upset because they don't want to do it. They're making that choice to behave that way. So if they want the item, then they can comply with your instruction. That's why you don't keep repeating it too, because then they also learn, I just wait till I hear a certain tone of voice, or don't really have to do it because she'll just end up giving it to me later, or that kind of thing, okay? Maintain control of that reinforcer. The other thing is, don't ask them to do something while they're doing something else. You need to have their attention. So they need to be sure to have stopped what they're doing and that they look up at you. You say their name, they look up at you. They don't have to continue looking at you. They just acknowledge that you're talking to them and they don't re-engage in the activity until you've given them the say-so, okay? So be sure that you don't try to give an instruction in the middle of them doing something else. If they're playing the video game, you need to stop the video game, okay? If they're doing something else, you've got to stop. You can't give them an instruction that affects your instructional control. The other thing is that you always increase the number of things and the difficulty of things in order to get the same reinforcing amount of things, okay? So that means they have to continually work harder to get what they used to get, and they need to do harder things to get better things, okay? But also, you are always doing that non-contingent pairing all the time. You will just play with them doing trains for half an hour with no requirements on them. You just play trains. They know that they're going to get that time with you, okay? And you can even have that a choice on their choice board of something fun to do. That they're going to play trains with you, or they're going to go swinging with you, or they're going to jump on the trampoline with you, okay? Those are things that you're doing throughout the day or throughout the couple of hours that you're with the child. If you're going to be a person that is going to be giving them instructions to do things like, you've got to get ready for bed, we're going to follow this routine, you're teaching them how to do bath time, you're going to be teaching them that they can do certain things and not do certain things during eating dinner, then you've got to be a person that also engages in just a fun activity here and there where you require nothing, okay? So first you're going to pair, establish that rapport with them, and then you are a person who gives instructions to that child. They respond correctly, and they respond the first time, okay? All right, I'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.